Thank you for choosing our service.
We are not responsible for the opinions expressed by end users.
Or for anything lost, stolen, or broken.
We do not say soulmates. We say wound mates.
We do not say hitherto unimaginable spiritual bond.
We say you seem to be constructing the same gallows which might easily be converted into a sound stage.
Ultimately, the way to healing is to find someone whose psychological wounds are not symmetrical with yours,
but whose psychological wounds tessellate with yours.
Tessellation is very important.
You will be charged $5.99 a month after a free trial period.
You are also eligible for 75% off our sister service delivering rare teas directly to your door.
Your prompt words are
the Royal Mail,
rocks,
birds,
tragic flaws,
food groups,
suicidal ideation,
Hitchcock films.
Conversations may be recorded for quality assurance purposes.
You have been paired with user
91614C.
J.
Your session begins in 5,
4,
3,
2,
1.
Coffee cup. Sometimes the blowhole in the plastic lid of your takeaway coffee cup hasn't fully perforated, or it's resealed in some unintentional heat reaction during the late stages of the lid manufacturing process. In such a case, the only aperture is the mouth hole, and soon you will jab the blowhole with a key or a pen, or slice it with your fingernail to create the necessary contraflow, but before that, you will try to take a sip, and nothing will come out of the slot, and you'll think, of course, this is a prop. This isn't real. None of this is real.
Coffee cup hand. Sometimes, when you're holding your coffee cup with two hands in your lap, you take a sip when I'm responding to your question about favorite movies by saying something like, well, there's a big difference between favorite and what you think is best, as a way to buy time to come up with a perfect one to impress you. But when your drinking hand takes the cup away from your non-drinking hand remains in that half-grip shape in your lap, like you could shift gears or start a thumb war I would willingly lose.
Grey rock. When somebody is harassing you or paying you unwanted attention, but it is, for whatever reason, too dangerous to sever contact altogether, it is difficult to know what to do. Maybe it is possible that by ignoring them completely, things will escalate and their interventions will become more intrusive. Oh love, oh coercion. In such cases, which are rare but perhaps not rare enough, the grey rock method is very effective. In the grey rock method, somebody hands you a shiny piece of glass and you hand them a grey rock. Hey pretty, what are you doing? They might text you, and you would reply, I am unloading the washing machine and I am hanging socks over the radiator to dry. And they would reply, cool. Later, they might message you, how's it going, beautiful? And you would reply, I somehow have to fit in doing my tax return in between marking these assignments and my oldest has a tummy ache. And they would reply, oh, okay, that's good. And then at 2 a.m, they would text you, are you in bed, darling? And you would reply, no, I am waiting for the duvet cover to dry, because although it has been hanging over the banisters all day, it is still wet at the corners, so I cannot put it back on the duvet. I am not in bed. I I am literally standing next to the duvet cover hanging over the banisters, waiting for the damp corners to dry, because I have learned that even if a duvet cover is only very partially damp, this is still sufficient to cause significant discomfort. And they would text back, okay. The grey rock method has proven to work even on malignant narcissists and stalkers within a maximum 2 weeks. They simply lose interest, weighed down by all the grey rocks, and then they leave you alone. And when I first heard about it, I thought, that is just like poetry. But now that I am sitting down to write it up, I am struck by the eerie similarities between the grey rock method and life itself, between the grey rock method and how, without the fiercest attention, we start to behave in a long-term relationship, between the grey rock method and the grey rock method. Hey beautiful, I got you this grey rock. Thanks beautiful, here is a grey rock for you also. I painted it for you, I painted it grey. With this grey rock I honour you. All of my grey rocks I give unto you in grey rocks and grey rocks. In grey rocks and grey rocks, until we are parted by grey rocks.
Red rock. When you text me things like, "You're such a Cancer," I know what you're saying, but I still want to text back that you need to capitalize the C. Unless you're trying to tell me that I'm a rapidly uncontrollable reproduction of cells. Instead, I text back, "Ha ha ha, what do you mean?" And the gap before your response tells me that you've taken the full stop after the third ha the wrong way, like I'm mad at you or something. So I quickly start drafting another message that begins with, "I'm so sorry," which is such a Cancer thing to do. But your message of, "I don't really know," interrupts me like the first big wave as the tide comes in before you've managed to pick up your beach towel and move backwards. And I don't know either, so I want to Google Cancer characteristics, but I know it's just going to piss me off. Because it's already pissing me off. No one substitutes birthstones for signs, so I text you, "You're such a sapphire." And Google sapphire characteristics and find that sapphire can be found in every color except red, which are considered rubies, and of course, I'm a ruby. As if I needed another metaphor to remind me how good I am at finding ways to derail our conversations just as you're getting close to telling me that you love me. Not because I don't want to say it back, but because I really want to say it back.
Dear BAE Systems, there is the weirdest noise, which I thought was a fox screaming in a distant field, but turned out to be a fly getting wrapped up by a spider on the ceiling right above me and trying to work its wings a few final times before succumbing. And it's funny, sir, how you can mistake a tiny act of desperation close by with a tiny act of desperation far away, but that's not the point. For 2 months, I have been trying, with very limited success, to order a drone strike on myself. Having searched the App Store and the Android market, which I did on my friend's phone, who has always made a big deal of the fact that he doesn't have an iPhone, as if that is some replacement for a personality or something. I cannot believe that there is not some kind of app through which clients can be easily tracked via GPS and cleanly taken out at some arbitrary time within a 2-week window. The programming required would be so simple as to barely need beta testing. Given your innumerable human rights infringements, separation of the intention and the act, alienation of responsibility, and resultant deaths of utterly blameless and beautiful adults and children, this just feels like a weird time to get pious. Yours, etc.
Dear Dennis Villeneuve, ever since I read the plot synopsis of your 2013 film Enemy and watched a clip of the final scene on YouTube, I've been trying to find the right words to tell you how much I hate you. as a director and as a person. For 2 months, I've been coming home worried that my partner has mutated into a room-sized tarantula. But maybe part of arachnophobia has to do with the size of the spider, and there's diminishing returns, like any spider bigger than a fist will elicit the same response, more or less, like, holy fuck, I'm going to get the broom, rather than, holy fuck, I'm going to move to another planet. Just in case spiders learn how to book trains or flights. The last time I didn't mind seeing a spider was on the back porch of my parents' house after it had just caught a fly in its web at the base of a pipe, and 3 other flies swarmed in on the spider and fought it back into the pipe long enough to help the caught fly break free. If you had directed a film like this, maybe I would have watched it. Instead, I now have to bite my tongue whenever my friend mentions how he's too worried about the psychological ramifications of watching a David Lynch film. I used to tell him, no, but the Elephant Man and the Straight Story aren't even Lynchian, they're just good. But I don't want you writing back to me saying things like, you should check out Incendies or Prisoners. Those were back before I put room-sized tarantulas in my movies. The fact that you even need to identify a period of your filmography as the period before room-sized tarantulas says it all, Dennis.
The birds. How do you behave in this tree alone when you know the warp and weft of a flock, when you know, little hulking thing. You can read drunk something you wrote when you were sober, or you can read sober something you wrote when you were drunk. We don't mind. We don't love you enough. Well, there's somewhere to hide. Well, there's something to hide from. Well, and what do I know? Over-reading the way you tilt your head to your left, my right. I am looking forward to a cup of coffee, and I fear the joy I take in small things, especially small things I do not deserve. Between the pencil shaving smell and the sawdust smell, here, bird, is a cuttlefish to sharpen your beak on, here is a fat ball to line your ribcage, grow round as a squash ball, grow round as a nucleus. God, quarantine your impertinence, sequester it for us, 1 bird per billion, like this moment before work or obligation or anything, really, when you know, like this moment, that which we are about to destroy. I'm going to ruin this, watch me.
How do you watch the Pokemon episode Bye Bye Butterfree without crying? It's like 21 episodes in is the perfect period of metamorphosis, getting to know someone or something just to let them go. Imagine, my love, all those Butterfrees got lost along the way and half flew into my stomach, half into yours. Whenever I'm near you, I think I'm hungry, but it's just the Butterfrees trying to find their ways back to their partners. Whenever we're apart, I fear the joy I take in small things like reading them, all the poems I know about birds. Most of them are about death, but I've taught my flock to find beauty in dead things, even though Pokemon don't die, they just faint. I've tried telling you so many things without using Pokemon as a reference point. But I can't find a nicer way to explain the abdominal pain loving you brings. The other day I wanted to tell you a story while we were in public, but it felt like everyone in the cafe was listening, waiting for me to ruin the moment by saying the wrong thing. The right thing would have just been to kiss you and say bye-bye, but that wasn't the story that came from my mouth. Did I say the wrong thing? Tell me.
Wild ferment. I just worry that therapy is making me more self-absorbed, I tell the postman as I sign off the package which contains pamphlets. And then I stare at the corner of the door frame for 15 minutes. Somebody is crying on the landing and it fills the house like the smell of garlic. I stand in front of a framed print in the kitchen. In the botanical illustration of garlic, the plant looks like death leaning forward apologetically to scoop you up. I dry the chopping board. I sink my fingernails into the bulb and I tear it. I strip the skin off a clove from white to purple to raw, sclera, ulstar, a marble dropped on a marble floor. I own a press, I prefer to use a knife, something so beautifully dense you can dice it and just keep on dicing, then switch to a finer blade and keep on dicing. It's like making something make sense. I think that I will tell my therapist about that, and he will ask me how I feel about onions, and I will go quiet for so long that he'll say, "Where have you gone?"
I just worry that socializing is making me more introverted. I message user 91614C between matches of Mario Kart. They message back pointing out how the only games I play online are from Nintendo because they don't have built-in chat features, so you can't actually talk with the people you're playing against without going through a third-party program. They've taken too long to type this though, so I've minimized the window and won't read it until later. I spend the next 3 hours researching optimal cart and wheel choices and memorizing track layouts. Being able to do something with someone without actually interacting with them fills me with as much joy as my body clock waking me up an hour before my alarm is supposed to go off, allowing me to go back to sleep in bursts of 5 minutes a dozen times, each one characterized by an increasingly heightened sense of victory at not having to get up just yet. Messaging you, user 91614C, fills me with as much joy as buying a pot of fresh herbs like basil or coriander instead of a bag or jar with the intent of watering the plant and growing those herbs yourself, but then watching it die slowly right in front of you, even though the sink is right there. It's just effort to turn the tap, and repeating the process over and over while buying ingredients for meals that call for basil or coriander, so you can't even cook them properly, and each time you take a bite you think something is missing. But it's not just the herbs that are missing. User 91614C, are you there?
Absolutely.
Are you typing? User 91614C, have you seen what I have seen? User 91614C,
If the river
have you
is not
felt
flowing,
what I have felt? Have you sat
if the road
across from me on the train and looked at me not as a stranger, but like a neighbor of your childhood home that you remember only insofar as they were kind and smiled at you when you returned from school, watering their lawn? User 91614C, I am tired of the poor connection. User 91614C, I am tired of feeling like there is always something missing. User 91614C,
have to know what
I am
you're
tired. Amazing bass. How sweet the sound. And how underappreciated, drowned out by instruments louder. I was once convinced that the best bass players were the ones who could show off the most, but now I hear the beauty in simplicity. If you could hold a tune as strongly as you hold my attention when finding excuses to drop in on me at work between classes, it would sound like an unassuming bass line. It was bass that taught me how to see things in the background of wide shots. You were an extra, but now you are first listed in the credits. You are the single brushstroke in the sky of a landscape that brings the whole piece together. You are the bass. You are all four basses like strings at the bottom of the ninth down by 3 runs full count. I hate baseball and baseball metaphors. But every time I see you, I can't help but wait to see if you will lead me home.
Our father crying in front of a hotel television, leave me alone, come back. Your name is Stephen or something. Your kingdom not yet, not really, not ever. May your will be intransigent and more than that inscrutable, and when I begin to understand it, may I recoil in horror and self-disgust. May I not forgive even someone who once accidentally stepped on the back of my heel so that my foot lifted out of my shoe and then didn't go back in right. May I resent them for that forever. May I refuse to eat things that I really like for no reason whatsoever. Lead me directly into temptation. Lead me into temptation and out the other side into further temptation so far that I forget who I am, who I used to be, and. May the point of my life have been that I ultimately could no longer feel superior to anyone. I don't have anything left, forgive me, okay, don't then. Lead me screaming into temptation, lead me dancing into temptation, lead me marching into boots lined with wet cardboard, burst blisters and grim resolve into temptation. Let temptation be my horizon, the sudden incline, the way, the truth and the light. Lead me into temptation until I think it was my idea, and then keep leading me until I think it was your idea, so that all I have left is obedience, so that all I am is being gradually scraped off the sole of your shoe, so that all I know was your idea, and may your testing break me if it would spare someone else 1/4 of a tear, may it break me, and may the devil pat the comfy padded seat next to him and smile while you grimly gesture towards an overlit windowless interrogation room. Amen.
You're throwing a slightly oversized basketball at a slightly undersized hoop at the carnival beside a man I don't recognize. He teases you when you miss and he doesn't, looking at you with that inflated sense of ego where it wouldn't matter if you were single or not, he still thinks you'd fall for him if you had even just 1 hour. I'm holding your cotton candy and letting him flirt with you to see what you do. We are not together, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to prevent you from being with anyone else. Anytime I see you say or do something you said or did when we first met, it feels like you're the carny trying to frustrate me into playing a game that's rigged. I'm already coming up with excuses about why I won't go on the Ferris wheel with you that have nothing to do with the fear of heights. The man says something that makes you laugh, so I head to the corn maze.
You're playing chess by a lobster tank with a man I don't recognise. The lobsters have blue rubber bands around their claws and clamber over one another in slow motion. You play quickly with weighted pieces, a fierce knight set where the horses look terrified. You barely pause when it's your move. He takes a moment, and it's clear how much he loves you, I'm glad. Everyone is off duty. The detective ignores the walkie-talkie on her belt and drinks a margarita. The gap in the salt makes me think of a cliffside. The actor is wearing a tracksuit and playing something on his phone. I am the hungover teenage waiter no one really needs. I am so tired of adjusting my bow tie. I hired you to test my sense of reality, and it's been 4 years, and you're still the only person who ever felt real to me, and I am either who you thought I was or nothing. I pause on the stairs, I pause before going through a door. I try to remember my lines.
When you disappeared, the detective asked me for any information that might help him locate you. I didn't know what was relevant, so I told him how you spent a night in prison in Fresno, which didn't surprise him because most people from Fresno spend at least one night of their life in prison. I looked for you on message boards, in chat rooms like this one, and in the hundreds of emails we exchanged. Until I met you, I didn't know Google capped email threads at 100 before starting new ones with the same subject, but with re:" in front of it. When I found the thread called awake now, I thought I saw you there in the final message, which was just a link to one of the many videos I never watched because we were past that phase of trying to impress each other. But that was just a phantom in a thread of red herrings. How was I supposed to know how you split yourself into 3 parts like any good story? The detective found the first part at the bottom of a laundry basket in a scent that still managed to cling to a t-shirt I still picture you in. I found the second in Winterbourne dangling off a piece of moss under the bridge over a lake covered with so many petals that it looked like you could stand on it. We never found the third, but I keep looking, expecting to find it at the beginning of a Saturnist album hidden in a sad piano line before the steady bass hides it once again.
Lux Radio Theatre. I'm a celebrated lawyer and I immediately fall in love with my new client. I have no justification for this whatsoever, except that 2 years ago I got sick, and the only solution was to swap my heart with my brain and my brain with my heart in the first successful heart-brain transplant. After the operation, the surgeon said, "How do you feel?" And I looked at him and I said, "What do I think, you mean?" My client's husband has been strangled to death, and she is the main suspect, and I cannot stop thinking about her. My wife is surprisingly understanding, and I'm like, "How do you even know?" And she says, "One of your hands has fallen off." And I glance at the empty left sleeve of my grey suit jacket. We are in the garden, and I'm drinking from a metal cup painted white and chipped in several places, and she says, "I understand that if you cannot exonerate your client of her husband's murder, she will hang, and I will lose you emotionally forever." And I say, "That seems preternaturally magnanimous of you." And she says, "No, it's fine, you're a very good lawyer, just do your thing." So I pin it on my client's husband's personal assistant, and I bust his alibi like a piñata, and he is just yelling and weeping on the stand, and I'm thinking, this is going really well. But the next day it turns out he's killed himself. So I try to say hey to my client on the way to the courthouse the next day, but she totally blanks me. And then during cross-examination that morning, my client is visibly distressed, and she says, "Jesus, you fucking idiot, you killed the only person I've ever loved. In fact, I murdered my husband just so I could be with him." And I'm like, oh dear, I have monumentally misread the whole situation. But I still have to sum up, and I start saying, life is very complicated, but then I start crying, and I run out of the courtroom, and like now I think it's probably all over for me, so I don't go home, I go to my office, and I sit at my desk, and I hold onto my knees, and I just sit there thinking about how it's probably all over for me, and what would be the least painful way to put. The office door opens, and my wife walks in wearing a blue scarf I bought for her years ago, and she says, "There you are. You don't have to come out from under the desk now, only when you're ready, but I wanted to tell you that it's okay. You didn't kill the personal assistant, you just tried to frame him, and probably within time you'll get over the way you feel about your former client if you haven't already. And maybe rebuilding your reputation isn't going to be easy, but it probably isn't going to take as long as you think it is, and really, it probably is all going to be fine. This is the 1940s and you're a tall white man."
Good reality testing. When we come to the end of a film, I don't want you to ask me things like, "So what did you think?" I want you to watch my face like a reaction video or a DVD commentary track of the same film we just saw. You should be able to tell from my eyebrows furrowing that I didn't think the characters were very believable, but that I'm tired of people always expecting characters to be believable. There is nothing believable about you, but I would revisit you every day if I could, because I am always finding little things I've missed. How your anachronistic soundtrack matches your wardrobe, how the blocking in your scenes always gives primary place of importance to the people you're with, and how your hand finding mine under the table is less like an inciting incident and more like a resolution.
Still life of fresh fruit, but the painting itself is rotting. Sculpture of rotting fruit, but the spores are made of gold. Installation of actual fruit in various stages of decay. Is it okay to listen to a problematic tour guide? Is it okay to portray a problematic tour guide for monetary gain? Is the director in love with you, and is that okay? I mean, is it? None of these is rhetorical, I'm asking you. When you look at a painting, I want to look at you looking at the painting rather than looking at the painting. When you don't like the ending of the film, I want to talk to you about the ending of the film and why it disappointed you, and I want you to tell me everything about what it promised, what it delivered, what you thought it would be, what it was, what you wanted, what you got, even if every character in the film is praying for a different outcome to the film, and so are you praying even though you've seen it twice already, and even if we're probably just going to wind up saying it had to end somehow.